Morning, boys and girls, or afternoon, depending on when you're in my room. We're going to be taking a look at fractions still today. And as you know from your mental math and your math message, we're looking at tenths and hundredths. And I know some of you were having a little bit of trouble identifying where those places were in a place value system. So when you're looking at these, this is where our whole numbers normally go. They're to the left of our decimal. And our decimal's here. And then we have our tenths and our hundredths. Okay. And so, for example, if I have 2 and 48 hundredths, it would look like this, 2 and 48 hundredths. And with tenths and hundredths, the thing that I find to be super easy is when you look at money. So I have $2.48. Well, I have 48 out of 100 cents because 100 cents would be a whole dollar. So that's why I think that can be a little bit easier if you think of it that way. So 2 and 48 hundredths. So in your math message today, you were given a problem that had a tenth and a hundredth. You had the paper clips, 2/10 of them were one color, and then you had that 45 hundredths were another. Okay, so you had something that looked like this: 2/10 plus 45 hundredths equals C. So all you had to do for your math message was to create that equation. But now what you need to do is you need to actually solve that equation. And looking at this right now, we actually cannot solve it because we do not have common denominators. And you can see that our denominators are close, 10 and 100, but I cannot add them up because they're not the same. What I need to do is I need to change one of them. And the easier one to change is definitely the 2/10. 2/10 can become 20 hundredths. Now, I can add 20 hundredths to 45 hundredths because now I have a common denominator. 20 hundredths plus 45 hundredths is 65 one-hundredths. 65 one-hundredths. Okay, so let's try a few more. If I have 6/10 plus 3 one-hundredths, what one would I change here? Well, because I can't do 1.5 tenths, I would have to make that 6 into hundredths. So I'm looking at 6 hundredths plus 3 hundredths. 60 hundredths. If I add a 0 to the top, I need to make sure that I add a 0 to the bottom, which I definitely didn't do that time. So 60 plus 3, I have 63 one-hundredths. What if I have 5/10 plus 41 hundredths? Again, dividing that 41 in half to come to the tenths wouldn't work very well. Bringing that down. So we're going to pump up this 5 and add a 0 to the top and the bottom, and now all of a sudden we can add those across, and what we get is 91 one-hundredths. So now let's say we have a problem, figure out where to stand, where you have more than one when you're adding. This is just a matter of taking your time and paying attention. Some of you really struggle with paying attention and paying close attention to details. So right here you can see 2 of my numbers are tenths and 2 of my numbers are hundredths. In order to do this, I want to make sure all of them are hundredths. So I'm going to make 20 one-hundredths, 9 one-hundredths, 150 one-hundredths, and then I have 31 one-hundredths. When I add that all together, I actually get 210 one-hundredths. Now, if you listen to a few things that I was saying yesterday about having this improper fraction, we can actually make it a mixed number which most math teachers, when you get a little bit older, like this a lot better. And so what we're able to do is we're able to pull 100 out of there, and we're actually able to pull 200 out of there. Well, 200 hundredths is 2 whole, okay? So if I have 200 hundredths, I actually have 2 whole numbers in there. What I have left over is this 10 hundredths. So my answer would be 2 and 10 hundredths. I can even reduce that a little bit more and say 2 and 1/10, but I would be happy with either one of these. And if you're able to go a little bit further into 2 and 1/10, all 3 of those are correct answers. Now, yesterday, you were adding mixed numbers. Okay? You're adding mixed numbers. So let's just say you have the problem 2 and 1/10 plus 3 and 25 100ths. Ms. Langford, but I can't answer that because my denominators aren't the same. Well, now you know that you can make these denominators the same. You can make this 2 and 10 hundredths. And now all of a sudden I can add these up. I can add my fractions. So 10 hundredths plus 25 hundredths is 35 hundredths. And 2 plus 3 is 5. So my answer is 5 and 31 hundredths. If you were going to write that as a fraction or a decimal, 5 and, okay, our and is our decimal, 5 and 35 100ths. Notice that our 5 ends in the hundredths place, so that's what I would call it. 5 and 35 hundredths. 5 and 35 hundredths. Okay? Now, you're going to be working on journal page 164 in just a few minutes when I get groups together. Until that point, I want you working on math boxes and not wasting any of your time. But make sure that when you go ahead and do page 164, the first 2 are just asking you to work in words. So you have to write 51 hundredths if you're changing 5/10ths to that. If you have questions on the first 2, skip them and do the other ones. I think they're easier without words, and you can always ask me for help or maybe a friend that's in your group. All right. Have a good time.